Making Alpha. This is episode 109, and we have a very special guest on, as always. And this is going to be a real estate episode. So if you're looking for strategies, tips on buying houses and everything to do with the real estate, so make sure to stick in and keep watching. And today's guest is Rich ONeill. Rich is a real estate investor from Southeast Pennsylvania who has built a 40 units that's a $3 million residential portfolio with only $25,000 to start. He is now running a construction management business for investor clients while continuing to build his portfolio and expand into larger projects. And of course, you can find him on Facebook and Instagram. All the links are, of course, going to be down below for you to follow. So, Rich, I appreciate you being today on the show.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So happy to connect, definitely. So for the people who are watching you and kind of seeing you first time, can you give us a little bit of background, the viewers, how did you get involved with the real estate?
Yeah, so I started out when I was, it was back in 2016, so I was, how old then, 24. I had a job working in sales, and I knew that it wasn't really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I was actually on my honeymoon with my wife, and we were talking, and I was complaining about my job or something, and she said, you've been talking about this real estate thing forever. Why don't you just go do that? And I said, you're right. So I came home from my honeymoon and put in my 2 weeks notice and went and bought my first house a couple weeks later. So that's kind of how I started. We bought that first house with cash, renovated it with cash, and then put a tenant in it, refinanced it, and took the cash out and did it again. And I've been doing basically that system ever since.
That is awesome. And I love the fact that you kind of had this discussion with your wife and she was like, you should go and do it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Easy,
absolutely.
Easy
I have to give her all the credit. She is like, she pushes me to do things I don't think I could at the time. She's
awesome.
Great.
That is awesome. It's very important to have the right partner on your side, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure my wife is listening not far from here, so she can hear that too. So
that's right. That's right.
Okay, so kind of you said that you worked in sales. So would you attribute some of at least part of the success that you currently have like to the sales job that you had previously?
I would, yeah. My boss at that sales job was a really good salesman and a really good teacher. So I'm really glad I had that job, and it's definitely helped me out. I've learned a lot about, selling through storytelling and some things like that that have definitely helped me pitch some deals that I probably shouldn't have gotten from in the first place.
Got it. So can you talk about your first deal? Kind of you mentioned the first house that you bought it. Kind of if you go through the process, how were you able to source the deal? How did you find it closing? Like the price, how much did it cost, and things like that. Sure.
Yeah. So I was, in my spare time, I would spend a lot of time in that southeastern Pennsylvania market. All of my properties are within about 5 or 10 minutes of each other. So for about 2 years, I was driving through the neighborhoods, looking at properties, and all that. And the realtor that helped me buy that first one, he probably hated me by the time we finally bought it, but he's actually still a friend today. But so I was looking for about 2 years, and this thing came up. It was priced relatively low, and it had been on the market for a little while. So we did some digging with the listing agent, and it turned out that it was a bankruptcy sale, and the first and only bankruptcy sale I've ever done. And we started talking about the deal, the agent and I, and we said, let's put something in really low. All they have to do is get it approved by the court. The seller doesn't really care what the number is, almost like a short sale. So I think it was listed for $50,000. We put an offer in at $23,000, and it was accepted by the seller, which I guess it was the only offer they had for a little while. Mm-hmm. And the court, it took a couple of months to get the court hearing and get it all approved through the bankruptcy. And realistically, their motivation was just to get as much cash to this person's creditors as possible. So they said yes. So we ended up stealing this deal for $23,000. We ended up putting about 25,000 in repairs in, and then it appraised for about 75,000 on the back end, and we were getting $1,250 a month in rent.
Got it. And do you still have the property?
Yes. Yep.
Got it. Okay. So what is the strategy behind you? You know, like buying these deals? Is it like long-term hold that you're playing? Playing on? Is it appreciation? Like how do you structure the deals?
So these, I buy for cash flow. So this market specifically, before I actually bought anything, I did a lot of research on the trends in the market. And one of the big things I wanted to see was how low did it get through the recession back in 2008 to kind of see a worst case scenario. And it really didn't see a major drop, but it also didn't see a major bounce back. So over the past 30 years, it had only fluctuated something like 5 or 10% over 30 years. So I knew there wasn't a huge opportunity for appreciation, but there also wasn't a huge risk of downside either. So we that was kind of looking at the market, and we bought that property to hold, and that's what we're doing with the rest of the properties as well. I've done a couple of flips just because the deals kind of fell into my lap, but it wasn't necessarily the main strategy.
Got it. So can you talk about the strategies that you're able to source the deals? I mean, what type of techniques are you using? Is it all through bandit signs, or is it like social media marketing, like realtor relationships, or?
So some of the above. I haven't done bandit signs. I did a little bit of direct to seller marketing. I wasn't necessarily passionate about it, so I kind of stopped that. There are wholesalers in my market that are doing it really well, and yeah, I'd rather go pay them for the deals than spend all the time and money doing it myself. So lately, the last 2 years or so, it's all of my deals have come from wholesalers that I've met through different networks, different referrals, things like that. Prior to that, I have my license as well. So I was getting a lot of deals off the MLS for my first 2 years or so. And that really flipped because at a certain point, the market got pretty hot, and anything that hit the MLS was selling for a lot more than I was willing to pay. So it flipped over to buying stuff from wholesalers, and that's mostly where I get my deals from today.
Got it. So can you talk about the deal criteria? Like what's like when it comes to the deals, what type of conditions are you looking for? Like bedrooms, and like what type of metrics do you have like for the deals?
Sure. So I'm not sure how this works in Ireland, but here for most of my deals, I can get financing on 75% of the after repaired value of the properties. And my whole strategy is to invest with cash and refinance that cash back out and keep rolling it. So that's the biggest part of the strategy right there is, can I buy it, pay closing costs, put all my repairs into it, and get it to refinance for enough to pull all that cash that I invested back out at 75% LTV. So that's the biggest piece of criteria. Once I can see that it meets that, because you can find that in a lot of places, but once I know that, then it comes down to a cash flow number. So the more expensive markets don't necessarily have that cash flow that I'm looking for. So I generally look for at least a $200 a month per door number. But that I can see sometimes as high as 3 and 4, depending on some of the deals.
Okay. So can you talk about the market itself? Because I'm sure there will be a few good insights into the market. Again, for the people like myself, like I don't have a clue about Southeast Pennsylvania. So, and I'm sure like you live in the area, and that's what you said is one of the reasons kind of invest, because you don't want to take 2 plane rides and, go to visit your properties. But like, right. Can you talk about what's happening in the area and like, just in general?
So historically, it's a suburb of Philadelphia. One of the big job drivers is the airport The Philadelphia airport is located in the county. Most of my properties are about 5 or 10 minutes from the airport. Um, and so we have a lot of blue collar bag handlers, TSA agents, and things like that. But there's also a lot of the just the culture of the area. People tend to stay for generations, and there are multi-generational households and things like that. So there's also a lot of elderly people that never left. So we have a lot of in-home nurses and healthcare workers that are in our market. So those are some of the job drivers. There's really easy transportation into the city. We do have subway, or I don't know if you'd call it subway, but regional rail transportation, they call it, that gets you into the city pretty easily without a car. So we do have some people that work in the city, and I'm starting to see a lot more people with COVID, a lot more people that want to move out of the city into markets like this where there's a little bit more space. Maybe you can have a decent backyard. You can have your car parked out front. You're not fighting for a parking space. And on the, maybe 1 or 2 days a week that you need to show up at the office, you can jump on a train and you're right there. And the prices are really cheap. So we're seeing a lot of people come from the city out into the county, which is having a really positive effect on values.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I mean, 40 units so far, so congratulations on that. And the question is, do you have a third-party management, or you still manage your own properties at the moment?
I do have third party. I did it myself until I had about 15. Then I hired a part-time person to kind of manage some of the other stuff, and that even got to be a little bit too much to manage. So the other problem was, a leasing agent has to have a different personality than a collections agent. Mm-hmm. Sales versus like hard nose, I need to collect the money. I had a really good salesperson. She was really good at leasing the units, but when it came to, collecting rent, she was just too nice of a person to try and push that issue. So I had to step in a lot there, which was fine. And, she did a great job for me, but it ended up not being a fit as we got bigger. So that's when we brought on the third party management.
Got it. Okay. So, and what do you think, when does it make sense for somebody who is watching and kind of brand new and looking, to buy the first single family, property, and like, is that a good point for them to start thinking about hiring property management, or what do you come to this conclusion that you need to hire out?
So I do think if you're going to go this route that I've done, I think it's really important to have some experience managing, because you need to know how to manage the manager. Whether that's 3 properties or 15 properties, that's kind of up to you and how much time you have available to it. One of my mentors pushed me to, move to third party faster, because he was explaining that it's probably one of the lowest payoff activities that you have. I mean, property managers get paid $10 to $15 an hour. So, that's, if you want to be doing the higher payoff activities, you can't be spending your time doing that. Was kind of his message. Now, I waited until I had 15 because I needed the income and all that. But if you still have a job and you're still working full time and you have a decent income and you only have 3 units, then maybe that's an appropriate time. But I do think it is important, to run it in your numbers as if you are going to have management at all times. Even if you're going to pay yourself that for the first three units, or however long it takes you to get above that. And I also think it's important to have some experience so that you can then go manage the manager.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. So talking about kind of, you hired the third party when you scaled to the 15 units, and you decided, yeah, I need to, hire somebody out, which is actually going to save my time. And it's a kind of, small tasks, and it doesn't pay me, enough for me to do this thing by myself but can you talk about the process that you did previously when you had those 15 units, when it comes to its tenant screening process, and kind of the do's and the don'ts when it comes, to that specific process?
Yeah. So I used a couple of different software platforms that were really important for me. Saved me a lot of time and energy. Um, and again, I'm not sure how relevant this is to Ireland, but in the States we have cozy.co is a free one. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a free one. They charge for a couple of services. That's how they make money. I found that to be good up to about 10 units, and then there were some shortfalls with that. So then I moved to Buildium, and both of those had tenant screening software built into them. I didn't love Cozy's. It was a little bit too simple of a return. So I started using TransUnion Smart Move. So that was a good one that I was using to supplement. Then Buildium has one that's built in that gave you a pretty good report. So I was using that one. So yeah.
Got it. Okay, thanks. So again, the audience that we have is you coming back to the point, like in Ireland, there's a few people that I'm sure that are watching this episode in Ireland, but I'm pretty sure I would say at least 60% of those people are watching from States. So
Cool.
and
Okay.
and I'm sure some of the people came across Cozy before, and so yeah, that is really cool. So 40 units. Portfolio, $3 million, in it. So like how much time did it take for you to scale your business to that level?
So let me think about the numbers here. 2016, I bought one. 2017, I bought, and this probably won't add up because I'm going to be a little bit off on these numbers, but 2016, I bought one. 2017, I bought, I think it was 6. 18, I bought 19. And this year I've only bought 3. So those numbers don't add up, but it's something to that effect. We had a big year in 2018. 2019 we only bought, I think it was 9. So we went up real quick and then down, and this year I've only bought 3. Just as fluctuations in the market. I didn't want to, prices have been going up, and I haven't wanted to change my metrics just because I'm getting less deals. Mm-hmm. So I just am not getting as many deals and working harder to find the ones that I've got. So that's kind of how we've scaled to this point.
Okay, I got it. So kind of took you four short years to get to this point.
Right.
So like it still says here that you're still building the portfolio, which is like you kind of slowed it down because of the during still COVID times, and it right. makes sense when it comes to the prices. So, but like, what are you looking to do in the future, like with the portfolio? Is there a certain number that you're looking to hit and just to sell it as a portfolio? Like, what is the overall strategy?
Yeah. So right now I'm actually taking some time away from the acquisition to build up the construction management business. Mm-hmm. Which we're offering to clients in the Philadelphia area, and I just hired a project manager. That's my brother is he worked for a big company doing project management, and he's going to work for me. And we're going to be doing science, and part of that kind of plays into the strategy, so that once we get that rolling and kind of self-sustaining, then I can become a client of that division, so that once I start doing, I'd like to maybe develop a small apartment building, buy the land, build it from the ground up, or buy a real, dilapidated one and refurbish it. And then I can become my own client and have the project management in-house. Mm-hmm. So ultimately the goal is to get up to about 175 units. And then at that point, that's kind of the at $200 a door, that's about the cash flow number that I'd like to be at to retire. Not necessarily, I'm never going to stop working, but that's kind of my, lifestyle I want to live. Financial freedom number is about 175 units. So that's the big goal for now. And then we'll see what happens once I get there.
Got it. And kind of looking towards the opportunity zones and multifamily type of deals, which is a lot of people are getting involved with the, traditional syndications and, that's kind
Right.
of a sexy game to play right now. Is that something that, like, are you involved in any of the like syndication deals as a limited partner at the moment?
No, I'm not a limited partner in any. I've looked pretty heavily into being the general partner in a couple of deals, and I've just found that anything that I can find at this point is a little overpriced compared to what I'm doing right now in the single family market. It's a little tougher to get the cash flow numbers and some of those other things. I mean, cap rates are very low. That's changing now a little bit, but multifamily still seems to be pretty resilient as far as pricing goes. So I've I'm always looking in that area, but it hasn't been a focus because, like you said, it's a sexy game to play, and there are a lot of there are a lot of people in it that are willing to overpay, and I'm not one of those people. So I need to find the right deal for it to make sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, and at the same time, look, you're building your own single family portfolio, which actually came across a few people, operators, and they have quite a wide network of people that they know, some pretty large operators when it comes to like institutional size of operators, and actually they're looking to buy a lot of single family portfolios during these times, and there's a lot of equity and going towards that during these times. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so it does make sense to still continue to build your own personal portfolio, and who knows, maybe one of these institutional operators who will be a buyer for your
Yeah,
properties.
maybe. Yeah, maybe. And if that happens, then we'll see what happens. I'm not afraid to sell a couple to try and get to that bigger number a little bit faster.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So I would like to kind of come back to the point of like 2016, where you kind of started to buy, your first deal, and like it took you 25,000. That was kind
Mhm.
of so, you know, kind of from that perspective, because I'm sure there's more than a few people who are watching this episode and thinking like how I can get involved with this real estate business, because like as I mentioned, multifamilies is sexy, but maybe there's too many moving pieces for me to get involved with. But maybe I can buy a house. So like, what will be kind of your personal recommendations for those people? Is like 25 grand is like the minimum that you can get involved with the single family residential investments, or like any tips on those kind of beginning stages?
Yeah, I mean there are 100 ways to start. You can start with no money if you can find the right deal and you can structure it properly. This was just the route that I decided to go because I did have a little bit of cash and was able to put it together this way. Um, I've done a couple of deals with no money down, and they get a little bit hairy and things like that. But if that's your first deal and that's the only way you can get started, I think it's a great way to get started. Um, because I made plenty of mistakes on my first deal and my second deal and my third deal, and the only way I got to this point is by actually getting those done. So, um, you know, I would just say don't be afraid to do a deal, even if you're going to make mistakes, and if you're going to have some issues on the first one, because you're going to have issues on the first, the second, the third. You're going to have issues on the 40th one. But as long as you're learning each time, it makes you a better investor.
Got it. Yeah, definitely. And one of those parts of kind of learning and maybe, not making the mistakes is, educating yourself prior to investing, before you actually go and invest in the deals, if you start to invest in yourself. So can you talk about that part, which I'm sure it's quite big in your personal, life. And you mentioned you got the coach that kind of, guide you along the way and give you those tips, to our third party management and all those pieces. But like, what would you recommend for people when it comes to educational like part? Like, where should they start?
So I listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast a lot. That was a good one for me. There are 100 books. There's so many different forms of media. You can go all over the forums on Bigger Pockets. They've got all the blogs. All these different people have different education platforms. You can go pay for a course. I mean, there's 100 ways to do it. just like there's 100 ways to invest in real estate, and everyone's going to say that their way is the right way, and it's not true. There's, you can do just fine in any one of the niches. So I spent a lot of time on those podcasts to begin with, and that's kind of how I built my my strategy, is learning from a bunch of those guys and going from there. Then once I got started a little bit more, I started joining some of the local RIA groups, attending their meetings and talking to other people about what they're doing, and that's been helpful as well.
Got it. Okay. So again, educating yourself prior before you start investing is a great way to kind of mitigate the risk, to make sure that you don't make those kind of mistakes. And again, leveraging the networks, as you said, becoming part of the RIAs, and meeting the local real estate investors and asking these people questions. And so one of the things, as you mentioned, is a coach, which I'm sure you benefited tremendously from having one. So is that something that people should consider in the beginning stages, or there's a time when somebody should hire one?
Yeah. So I didn't hire mine. It was a family friend. He had built I'm trying to think what he had at his peak. It was something like 200 units down in Florida. And, he was a friend of a friend, and he was happy to help. So I went down there, spent some time with him, and, really learned his business. And I was really fortunate to have that. That's not going to be everyone's situation. But I've also met some more local people that aren't quite as big, and just by being valuable to them in one way or another, either bringing them a deal that might fit their criteria, or giving them a reference to someone that that has helped you out, be it a contractor or a lender or anything like that. Just by being valuable to other people, you generally get so much more value than you can give.
Got it. So the last question that I have, and I heard the kids running around at some point when we
Sorry
recorded.
about that.
No, that's the question that I have, because you're building your own business, you're building your personal portfolio. Now you're getting involved with the construction management, part of the business, and you want to do all these different things. You want to scale the company. You want to, impact a lot of people. Again, there's, people who are watching you right now in this episode, and they're taking all the strategies, tips, and advices. So, but what is the overall message, or maybe the legacy that you're looking to leave behind you?
So spending time with my family is big for me. That my office is in my house. That was one of my motivations for getting into real estate, was that I wanted to have the flexible schedule to be able to go spend time with the kids and my wife. And I mean, this past summer, I spent probably 2 out of the 3 months at my in-laws' house in Florida. My wife and kids spent the whole summer. I was coming back and forth a little bit, and I wouldn't have been able to do that with a traditional job. So that was really huge for me. And as far as the legacy I want to leave, is just really, I want my kids to know and believe that I was there, present with them as much as I could be. And whatever happens with the real estate or the construction or any of these other businesses, that's the most important thing to me.
Got it. That's again, family is definitely a big part in your life, and I'm sure in a lot of people's lives. People who are watching right now, I mean, it's big in big part of yours too. But I love the fact that you're just looking to be, again, you have this home office, and that's what I wanted to mention, because I do understand that family is a big part of your life, and it's a beautiful thing, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that personally, and a lot of people who are watching and thinking, you knew the situations when parents both at work, and there is no time or those quality memories that they're not there, there's nothing, it's just an empty space. And so you can, in your position, you're able to work from home, during these times is kind of a must, but still, you can run the business kind of from home, and you're always there, with the family, collecting all these great memories, which is a beautiful thing, you know,
Mhm.
it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was fortunate growing up that my dad ran a home building company when I was growing up, and so I was able to see kind of that example.
Yeah.
And you know, we were able to, you know, get away for the weekend early on a Friday because, you know, he was his own boss type of thing. And I really respected that growing up, and I wanted to emulate that as best I could.
Here we go. And I think you're doing quite a good job with that. So
Thank you.
congratulations on that. So again, family. So make sure to become a family of Rich also by following him on Instagram and connecting on Facebook. You know, follow his journey and see like where he's going. And again, become part of the 170 unit plus, you know, portfolio and see his journey and ask him questions, because this man is definitely available. Well, I'm not sure how much time does he have, but he dedicated his time to you know, to provide value, to be on this episode today, which I really appreciate you, you know, for being on and sharing all these great tips and, you know, your journey and what it takes to scale the business and grow it, you know, in single family portfolio. So it's awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone has questions or anything like that, I'm happy to help.
Here you go. Here you go. So one thing that I wanted to ask you guys and girls who are watching this episode, if you just share it with a friend, that person who always talks about real estate investing, but always says that he lacks the information, the knowledge on the ways to start the business, I'm sure this episode will benefit greatly that person, because there's a lot of strategies, tips, motivation, inspiration. So it's going to help that person a lot. So again, Rich, I appreciate you being today on the show. And guys and girls, as always, I will see you next episode.
All right. Great to see you. Thanks.